The purpose of this video is to introduce a working demonstration of a responsibility-based incident system. There are two key features of the system which make it valuable. Number one, the system is objective. Number two, the system could be implemented in software. The race used in this video is a 66-lap fixed C-Class Street Stock Series race at Bristol. 20 drivers are entered. The strength of field is 1,645. Bristol was chosen because of its reputation as a high-incident track. As such, it serves as a stress test for the proposed system. Before the racing begins, I would like to provide an overview of the key components. The incident breakdowns later in the video will reinforce these points. The fundamental principle of the system is the use of the preferred racing line as a neutral zone between two cars that are competing for position. Evaluation begins at corner entry. Corner entry is defined as the point that the preferred racing line begins to curve away from the outside wall and toward the corner. Situation 1. The trailing car has not gained position on the leading car. What this means is, at the corner entry point, if the nose of the trailing car has not reached the rear axle of the leading car can take the preferred line through the corner. Situation 2. Trailing car has gained position on the lead car. What this means is, at the corner entry point, the nose of the trailing car has reached the rear axle of the leading car. Note that when this occurs, the spotter of the lead car will call out car inside or car outside as appropriate. At this point, the preferred line becomes a buffer zone between the two cars until one of the cars can complete the pass. If a car crosses the preferred racing line and contacts the other car, the car that crossed the line will be awarded responsibility points for the contact. The car that held its side of the line gets no points. So to emphasize, only the responsible car gets points. The second principle of the system is that responsibility for contact with a rear bumper belongs to the trailing car. One exception would be when the lead car suddenly slows down or checks up. Also introduced later on in the video is the 3 wide rule. Under the 3 wide rule, the driver that makes it 3 wide is responsible for any incident involving the drivers until 2 wide is reestablished. Okay, here we are early in the race at Bristol. Car number 4 here qualified second. Car number 1 qualified first, so these are the front row drivers. This is exiting turn 2 down the back stretch, and you can see the number 4 is right on the bumper of the leader. So as they go down the back stretch, the 4 still right on the bumper of the 1, and as the 1 enters the corner, which you can see the corner entry is where the preferred line starts to turn into the corner. So this is where the lead car decides whether they're going to go high or low. In this case, the 1 is choosing to take the high line, so he is on the outside of the preferred line. And the 4 Also somewhat above the preferred line. There's plenty of space between them, so they're headed through this corner, racing for position. Now you can see the 4 cutting down low, taking the preferred line and a little bit more. He's down to the apron, certainly cutting the corner. Now he's going to, since the leader has taken the high line here, he owns the high side of the preferred line. So if there is any contact on the high side of the preferred line at this point, the responsibility for the incident would go to the number 4. And let me back this up just a little bit and slow it down. So here the number 4 right on the preferred driving line, and they're exiting turn 4. And the 1 is holding a very nice line. The 4 starts to push up. So he was attempting to make a pass. And you can see he sort of has position here, but they're exiting the corner, entering this, getting ready to enter the straight, and really at this point the 4 is not in a position to make this pass. The 1 is going to get a good run off here, but the 4 is really pushing too hard and ends up pushing up the track. And you can see here that both cars are on the high side of the preferred line. So again, any contact here is going to be the responsibility of the 4, as he should have been holding to the preferred line. And at this point you can see there's plenty of room on the left side of that preferred line, so he really should have been holding down on the left side of the preferred line. But he didn't, and he spins. So he spins himself out in this case. The leader wasn't affected, which is unusual, somewhat unusual. But in any event, incident points are the responsibility of the 4, so the 1 should get no incident points here. Here we are at lap 16, and there have been no incidents since that first lap incident with the leaders. And now we're going to watch the 19 and the 15, and the 19 is running in 15th place and the 15 is running in 14th place. So these drivers are running in the position sort of close to their iRating position, which is reflected by the car number. And that's a good thing. But what we're going to see here is a demonstration of some pretty good racing. It's it's a good indication of how the racing can be clean when the drivers are respecting that preferred line. Now, more than likely the drivers did not have the preferred line turned on, but as you can see by watching these laps, that as long as the drivers respect that preferred line through the corners, the racing can be door to door and it can be quite fun for both drivers. So here we go. So they were exiting turn 4, headed down this front straightaway here. The 19 is trailing the 15. The 15 is about to make his corner entry, and of course he has clear position on the 19. And the 15 holds the preferred line through the corner. The 19 follows him and then decides that he's going to try to take his momentum to the outside and try to make an outside pass. Now there's a bit of net lag here, but no incident is occurring here at the exit of turn 2. Okay, the 19 gets his car under control, avoids contact with the 15, and that causes his car to wash up the track. But the 15 sticks right on that preferred line and is continuing through the corner. So the 19 gathered his car up nicely. He went through that high line, so he's carrying some momentum off turn 2 here, headed down the back stretch. 15 continuing to stick right on the preferred line. And now the 15 is on the inside of the preferred line as we get to corner entry. But he's not being challenged for position. The 19 has not, his nose has not made it to the axle of the 15, so there's really no challenge for position at this point, and you can see the 15 is pointed toward the high line here. So the 15 now takes the high line, and that he could recognize that the 19's been banging on his door, knocking at the door, but the 15 for whatever reason takes the high line and
shot. This was quick.
So that was actually the 15 recognizing that his tires are a little bit shot, so maybe that's why he washed up the track right there. But in any event, it's some good racing going on. So the 19 is really sizing up the 15, but he's being patient, and he recognizes that the 15 has been, on that last corner at least, was taking the high side. So here the 19 makes a move to the inside, and he's cutting down low into this corner. And let's see what the 15 does. Okay, so the 15 has clear position, and he's taking the outside line, if you will. So the 19 would have to stay low if he attempts to make a pass in the corner or exiting the corner. And he does it quite nicely. The 19 is carrying his momentum out of the corner on the low side, and he is getting position on the 15. He's almost there. But you can see the 15 has some awareness, and he goes into the high side of the track. So here you see the 15 is on the high side of the preferred line. The 19 entering the corner is on the low side of the preferred line. So to avoid any responsibility points here, the 19 would need to stay down too close to that apron through the corner if he's going to attempt to pass through the corner. And you can see that's exactly what he's doing here. So there's not a lot of room at Bristol between that preferred line and the apron, but the 19 is doing a wonderful job here. The 15, he had all the position entering the corner, so he owns, right, even at this point. The 19 never really gets position on the 15, but the 15 is on the high side, and he owns that high side. He really owns the preferred line through the corner at this point, but since there's so little room on the low side and the 15 takes the high side, that there's really no question about who, that the 15 owns the corner at this point. But the 19, he's racing hard and he's attempting the pass, so he is going to stick it into this corner and keep it below that preferred line, recognizing that the 15 is on the high side. Now exiting the corner, you can see that 19 has held his line quite nicely, and he exits the corner below the preferred line. So this is just excellent door-to-door racing right here. Now the 15 has got back out ahead of the 19, and the 19 no longer has position here, so the 15 really owns this corner, and he chooses to take the high side going into the corner. So again, if the 19 hopes to attempt to pass in this corner, he's got to stay low. And look at that. That's just textbook driving right here. He's keeping his car down low. Now that happens to be the preferred line, so there's certainly no penalty here for the position he's taking, but you can see both cars can make it through this corner no problem. Plenty of space between the two. And really, the 19 doesn't even have position on the 15 here at this point. Hasn't even reached his back bumper.
Sorry, 19. I didn't mean to come down on you.
And interestingly, the 15, these are just two very respectful drivers here. So the 15, did sort of come down, but not really. Since he had position, he was in the lead all the way, and he was on the high side. But just, a shout out to recognize that, hey, we got pretty close there. Here we are on lap 20, another incident on the same lap. When it rains, it pours. So here we're following the 4 and the 13. The 4 was involved in that early lap incident with the leader. Now the 4 has fallen back to position 17 and is battling the 13 for position 16. So here they are exiting turn 4. You can see both cars are on the high side of the preferred line, but the 13 has quite a gap on the 4 at this point. And I'll let this play through, then I'll break it down. Okay, so we're exiting turn 4. Plenty of space between the two cars. In the backstretch, again, the 13 is maintaining a comfortable lead on the 4. Both cars are on the high line, taking the preferred line down the backstretch. There's no challenge for position here. And as we enter into turn 1, let me back it up just a little bit. So as the preferred line turns into the corner, that's the corner entry in this system, which uses the preferred driving line as the guideline for who is responsible for incident points. So here the 13 is in the lead position, and it has reached the point where the preferred line starts to turn into the corner. And as we continue forward, we'll see that the 13 chooses the high line. So since there's no challenge for position at corner entry, the 13 completely owns the high line here. So the 4, if he should attempt to make a pass at this point, should go through the corner below the preferred line, or in the case of these turns at Bristol, when the preferred line is down near the apron, the passing car needs to keep his car down close to that apron. But we see the 4 takes a high line and is actually even going to in a little bit higher than the 13. So let's take this through in slow motion. So the 4 is closing in on the 13 on the outside, but still has no position even at this point. So they've passed the apex. They're heading to the exit. The 4 still has no position. Just pausing here, the spotter would not be telling the 13 that there's a car on the outside. Now the 13 probably is aware of the 4 just from mirror and awareness, but again, the 13 owns the outside line, so the 4 is sort of in a no man's position at this point. Even though there's track space up ahead, which is fine for a racing deal, but as far as responsibility for incident points go, the 4 is carrying that responsibility at this point. Now here, the 13 has actually increased his gap on the 4 and is now exiting the corner. You would think cleanly. The 4 seems to maintain his momentum, and we'll see closes in and clips the outside quarter panel of the leader, of the lead position car, the 13 in this case. So clearly these incident points are the responsibility of the 4. Okay, here we are at lap 20, and it's been incident-free so far. It's been a good race, but some action is about to take place. So here we're following the 18. Very interesting. His car looks generic. Not sure exactly why, but in any event, here we are, and keep an eye on the 8 ahead. I'm going to let this play through, and then I'll break it down. Okay, so you saw it play through at full speed. Now let me break it down. Here are the cars exiting turn 4. The 2 cars involved in the incident both are on the high line, and you can see the 6 is taking the preferred line, the low line through this corner, and you can see the 6 is doing a good job holding down inside the preferred line. On a track like Bristol, where the preferred line leaves virtually no room for the car to be completely on the left-hand side. This responsibility system, which utilizes the preferred line, would have a buffer between the apron and the car on the inside, so that the car on the inside would not be forced to run on the apron. But this is a good example of the 6 taking the low line and holding his position through the corner. So exiting the corner, the 8 clearly has position on the 18, and the 8 also is right behind a car that's immediately ahead of him. So there's no place he can really go unless he cuts to the inside. But all 3 cars here are on the high line, and the 6 held his low position quite well. So let me back that up even a little bit more. So as the preferred line starts to turn into the corner, that's where the corner entry starts, and the leader entering the corner is the 8, and he clearly has position on the 18, and the 8 will choose the high line. So the 18, if he's going to attempt to make a pass, should hold, because he has no position on the 8 at corner entry. He needs to keep his car down on the inside of the preferred line. But right here immediately you can see that he is above the preferred line. So both cars above the preferred line. In this case, the lead car, the number 8, owns the outside line. So any contact at this point would be the responsibility of the 18. And there was contact. So in this case, incident points are the responsibility of the 18. The 8 would receive no incident points. Okay, here we are, lap 21. This is immediately after the incidents that occurred on lap 20, and we're following the 4 into the pits. And the 4, recall, was involved in the early incident getting into the 1, and he was also involved in the lap 20 incident getting into the 13. And now he's following the 15 into the pits. Now notice the 4 is on the inside here, and he has no place to go. The 11 is up ahead, and the 15 is to the outside, and the 4 qualified on the front row. So his pit stall is way down at the end of pit road here. So this is not a good position to be in. Let's see how he handles it. Just turns the 15 and pulls right into his pit stall. Okay, here's another look at the 4 going down pit road and getting into the 15. So this is an incident on pit road. Clearly there's no preferred line on pit road, but this is just a case of somebody getting run over from behind. So anytime the car that is in the lead position is hit from behind, then the responsibility points belong to the car that is trailing. In this case, it would be the 4. So we're going to let this play through, and then we'll hear some commentary from the 8 and the 15 about both of these incidents. So just to get an idea of how the drivers during the race are interpreting who's responsible for these incidents, you can weigh their comments with how this proposed responsibility system would award the points.
What happened, 8? 18 just body slammed me because he couldn't get around nobody. I mean, I was patiently waiting behind the 3. If I raced like that, the 3 would be out. Whoever just spun me in the pits, I'm reporting your ass right after. That was fucking retarded.
Yeah, I was just racing patiently behind you as well, just buying time.
Yeah, and then he come straight up and just took me out, man. And look, now I'm a lap down because I got spun in the fucking pits.
Okay, here we are under caution. The cars are back out on the track after pitting, and we're going to watch the 16 as he is up with the leaders here, and he's going to make some contact. So let's see how this plays out.
Take it easy on the start, guys. We all want to finish.
Okay, so this is just a clear case of the trail car running into the back of the leading car, so responsibility points would go to the 16.
I want everybody to finish good except for the 18.
16, did you just give me a 4X under caution?
Yeah, so see how the 13 is, he says, hey, I just got 4X when he just got run into from behind on a pace lap. So clearly this is where the proposed responsibility system would only award responsibility points to the 16. Now we're on lap 27 and we're exiting corner 2, and you can see here the 15 and the 14 are battling hard. The 14 is in the proper position, down low, close to the apron. Left side tires are over that preferred line, so in good position here. And the 15 is, above in the high line. Both cars are almost even here, so this is just a good battle for position. No one is really in the lead at this point, but watch as they close on the cars ahead of them. Okay, so going down the backstretch, it's basically 3 wide here, and 3 wide at Bristol is never a good thing. It's possible on the straightaways, but doesn't work too well in the corners. But let's watch what happens. We can see the 5, the 15 is closed up on the 5 and has position on the 5. You can see the nose of the 15 has passed the rear axle of the 5, so the 5 spotter would be saying car inside at this point. And the 15 is on a trajectory to be on the inside of the preferred line. But let's watch what the 14 does here. 14 very wisely backs out, doesn't want to go into the corner 3 wide, and gives up the battle with the 15. Now, the 5, let's back that up a little bit. So we said here that the 15 had gotten some position on the 5. His nose was up to the rear axle. So that means going into the corner, neither car is entitled to the preferred line, so they'll have to share the corner. So the 5 is going to go in on the high side. You can see the 5 is going right along the wall. He's staying on the high side as the preferred line starts to turn in. So we're into corner entry at this point, and the cars are about even. So they're definitely battling for position. The 15 is trying to make the pass, but he's pushing a little too hard, and he's unable to hold the low line. So his car now is pushing up. He'll be completely above the preferred line. So at this point, any contact when both cars are above the preferred line, the responsibility points would go to the 15. So even in this case, the 5 is coming down on the 15. Okay, but the 5, doesn't want to wash up the hill and hit into the outside wall, and the 15 is just trying to push to make the pass on the inside. That's all well and good, but if there is any contact, even in the case where the 5 comes down a little bit, since the 15 is up too high in the corner, he hasn't completely cleared the 5 yet, then there was, at the point of contact, the 15 just hasn't cleared the 5 by enough. So the slide job is in effect here, but the responsibility points are going to end up with 15. And you can see the 15 is going to complete the pass because of the maneuver. He held his momentum, pushed up the track, and was able to get ahead of the 5 exiting this corner. But the 5 maintains some momentum himself, and they head down into turn 1. And again, at the point where they cross the start-finish line and then the preferred line starts to turn in, The 5 definitely has some position on the 15, right? So they're going to have to share the corner. So the lead car is the 15, and he's on the inside right now. So it looks like the 15 is going to take the inside line, so the 5 would have to be on the outside. So the 15 is taking the preferred line, but this time he's sticking down there. Okay, and that allows, you can't keep quite as much momentum, so the 5 is able to keep his momentum and complete the pass on the 15. So it really makes a difference when that inside car holds his line versus pushing up. We're now on lap 32, and we're going to follow the 4 and the 8. Now the 4's made his way back to 9th position. He had fallen all the way down to 17th after starting on the front row, so he's trying to work his way back up through the pack. Here they are exiting turn 2, and there's a bit of a gap between the two, but they're both on the high side, and there's quite a bit of traffic here, so both cars on the high line. Now you can see the 8 has really nowhere to go, and both the 4 and the 8 are on the high side. And the 8 is going to pick the high side as he enters into the corner here. Okay, so the 8 is on the high line, and the 4 is behind him. He's a little bit lower, but if he's not going to try to advance his position, this is no problem. But if he is going to try to advance his position, he should be down on that preferred line in order to avoid responsibility for any contact. Now the 4 does work his way down, but he's unable to hold it as he tries for the pass. You can see he's right up almost door to door with the 8. But he's only been able to gain that position by carrying enough momentum, which causes his car to wash up the track. So you can see at this point both cars are above the preferred line, and the 8 had position going into the corner. He chose the high line, so the 8 owns the high line. Any contact here with both cars on the high side of the preferred line, responsibility would go to the 4. And there's the contact.
Thank you, Cole. What are you? God, some of you guys are just morons. Oh, maybe a little kid, sorry.
Okay, we've made it to lap 35, and this is going to be an example of the 3 wide rule. So what I would like to see with a responsibility system enhancement would be configurability. So one of the configurable options we've already talked about is the buffer between the preferred line and the apron or the outside wall that the admin could set. So for tracks like Bristol, there would need to be a buffer so that cars didn't have to be on the apron and risk spinning out simply to be on the low side of the preferred line. The another configurable item would be the 3 wide rule. So with the 3 wide rule, if enabled, then the car that is the car making it 3 wide would get all incident points that occur as a result of that 3 wide maneuver. So as we watch this, I'm going to let this play through and then I'll back it up and give some commentary. Okay, so you could see that the 7 was the car that was spinning a little bit there. So let's see who's responsible for this incident. Okay, so here we are exiting turn 2, and up ahead the 6 and the 13 are going side by side, and you can see that the 6 is holding his low line quite nicely. His left sides are on the left side of the preferred line, and the 13 is up in the high line. Plenty of space between the cars, so that's just perfect textbook passing right there. The 9 and the 7 are following. So about the same situation. The 6 has fallen back a little bit, but you can see the 6 is still holding his nice low line here. So his car is completely under control. The 13 is up high, but he has a car right ahead of him, so he really has nowhere to go on that high line. He's going to have to check up if he has more speed. So let's watch the 9 and the 7. So the 9 is closing, but watch the 7. So the 7 is taking it 3 wide right here, and he drops low, so he's well below the preferred line, which is a good thing, but he's even on the apron, but he was taking it 3 wide, and he washes up the track. The 9 really has nowhere to go. The 9 is doing a good job here. If you look at the 9 compared to the 13, okay, the 9 can't be low because of the 7 at this point, and you can see with the 7's nose is up past the rear axle of the 9, so the 9 spotter is telling him car low, and he knows there's a car high. So he has nowhere to go here, and he's doing the best he can to stay on the low side of the preferred line, but he just can't do it right now because of the 7. So the 9 still wants to be on that low side of the preferred line, which is the right thing to do, but the 7 had taken it 3 wide deep into the corner. So in this case, all incident points would be with the 3 wide rule. Since the 7 was the car that took it 3 wide, any responsibility points would be assigned to the 7. So let's see how this plays out and see what the drivers think here.
Three wide is not going to work, 7. I don't know what you're thinking.
So the drivers recognize that 3 wide just isn't going to work at Bristol. So let's have a responsibility system that awards the points appropriately. Okay, we've made it to lap 35, and this is going to be an example of the 3 wide rule. So what I would like to see with a responsibility system enhancement would be configurability. So one of the configurable options we've already talked about is the buffer between the preferred line and the apron or the outside wall that the admin could set. So for tracks like Bristol, there would need to be a buffer so that cars didn't have to be on the apron and risk spinning out simply to be on the low side of the preferred line. The another configurable item would be the 3 wide rule. So with the 3 wide rule, if enabled, then the car that is the car making it 3 wide would get all incident points that occur as a result of that 3 wide maneuver. So as we watch this, I'm going to let this play through and then I'll back it up and give some commentary. Okay, so you could see that the 7 was the car that was spinning a little bit there. So let's see who's responsible for this incident. Okay, so here we are exiting turn 2, and up ahead the 6 and the 13 are going side by side, and you can see that the 6 is holding his low line quite nicely. His left sides are on the left side of the preferred line, and the 13 is up in the high line. Plenty of space between the cars, so that's just perfect textbook passing right there. The 9 and the 7 are following. So about the same situation. The 6 has fallen back a little bit, but you can see the 6 is still holding his nice low line here. So his car is completely under control. The 13 is up high, but he has a car right ahead of him, so he really has nowhere to go on that high line. He's going to have to check up if he has more speed. So let's watch the 9 and the 7. So the 9 is closing, but watch the 7. So the 7 is taking it 3 wide right here, and he drops low, so he's well below the preferred line, which is a good thing, but he's even on the apron, but he was taking it 3 wide, and he washes up the track. The 9 really has nowhere to go. The 9 is doing a good job here. If you look at the 9 compared to the 13, okay, the 9 can't be low because of the 7 at this point, and you can see with the 7's nose is up past the rear axle of the 9, so the 9 spotter is telling him car low, and he knows there's a car high. So he has nowhere to go here, and he's doing the best he can to stay on the low side of the preferred line, but he just can't do it right now because of the 7. So the 9 still wants to be on that low side of the preferred line, which is the right thing to do, but the 7 had taken it 3 wide deep into the corner. So in this case, all incident points would be with the 3 wide rule, since the 7 was the car that took it 3 wide. Any responsibility points would be assigned to the 7. So let's see how this plays out and see what the drivers think here.
Realize it's not going to work, 7. I don't know what you're thinking.
So the drivers recognize that 3 wide just isn't going to work at Bristol. So let's have a responsibility system that awards the points appropriately. Okay, lap 36, we're going to follow the 8 and the 13. Both cars have been involved in contact earlier in the race. Here you can see the 13 tight on the bumper of the 9. Both cars taking the preferred line down the high side of the track, and the 8 is on the inside. As they pass the start-finish line, the 13 chooses the high side, and the 8 takes the low side, and he's doing a very nice job holding that low line. I mean, this is textbook right here. So they exit turn 2. Everything looks good. Now if we back it up just a little bit to see, so we're coming up to corner entry here, and you can see the 8 does have some position on the 13. The nose of his car has made it to the rear axle of the 13, so the 13 spotter would be telling him at this point, car low, car low. So the 2 cars will need to share the preferred line through the corner. Now the lead car was the 13, and he takes the high side. So as we go through the corner, the 13 will be on the high side. The 8 should be on the low side of this corner. But the 8 does not hold his line. both cars are on the high side. The 8 slides into the rear quarter panel of the 13, causing contact. So since both cars are on the high side of the line, responsibility points go to the 8. Now the 8 is trying to hold control, maintain control of his car as he slides down onto the apron. And if we look at his speed, he's going about 73 miles an hour. Now if we back up, here comes the 17, and he's going at 98, not 99. He's accelerating at this point. And the 17 contacts the 8's rear bumper. So this is a simple case of the trail car hitting the rear bumper of the lead car, so responsibility points go to the 17. And if we were to back that up and follow the 17, some people might look at this and say, but the 8 was on the apron and he came back up on the track, and he wasn't going 100 miles an hour like the 17. But at this point, the 17 can clearly see what's going on up ahead of him, or should be able to, at least if he's paying attention. So the 8 is turned sideways, and the 17 is at the middle of the track, where he's above the preferred line as the 8 is sliding down the track. The 17 holds the low line, does not decelerate at all. The 8, of course, is going to be coming back on the track. So, responsibility points to the 17 for getting in the back of the 8. Here we are at lap 38, following the 15 and the 17. And we're exiting turn 2. Both cars are on the high side, and the 15 has reached the rear axle of the 17, but since this is exiting the corner, the 15 really needs to be holding his low line here, and he's not low enough, as you can see. Both of his tires are on the high side of the preferred line here. So let's take it forward. Now the 15 recovers and gets under into the correct position as they go down into turn 3. So you can see here that as they reach corner entry, the 15 does have position on the 17. The nose of the 15 has reached the rear axle of the 17. So the 17 spotter should be telling him car inside. And that means that the cars will need to share the preferred line through the corner. And the 17 is on the outside, so the 17 is going to take the outside line, and the 15 would need to take the inside line, which here at Bristol means the left sides would have to be below the preferred line through this corner. Now you can see here that the 15 is not low enough. He has washed up here a little bit. The 17 does look like he's in good position. And the 15 can't hold his low line, and he's pushing up. So contact happens with both cars above the preferred line, so responsibility points go to the 15. Let's see what the 15 thinks.
Sorry, 17, I just split up the track.
Here we are on lap 43, and we're following the 19, exiting turn 2. And what we're going to see is a 3 wide situation coming up. So I'm going to let it play through, and then I'll run it back and comment. Okay, so we saw two 3-wide situations, and let's see how they differed. So here's the 19 heading in. So he's been holding the inside line, and the track is clear ahead of him, so he just continues forward. But he was the car making it 3-wide, so if there were any incidents here and the 3-wide rule was enabled by the admin, then any incident points that occurred would have gone to the 19. Fortunately, nothing happened there. Somehow the 15 was able to slide into a hole. This is just either extremely skillful driving by the 15 or just really lucky. But the 15 is in the middle, and somebody's spotter, I think his spotter would be telling him it's 3-wide, and he's going to just know that he's gotta do something, and he squeezes in there quite miraculously. So now they continue on, and the 19 is still holding his low line, and he's doing a great job, textbook here, holding that low line. So he's doing very good at that. And the 15, he takes it 3-wide right here, starts to do it, but then he says, well, I better not do that. That's not a good idea. I don't want to be the one taking it 3-wide, so he actually backs out. Very wise, because look what happens. Moments later, the 19 had been doing such a good job holding his low line, but here as he exits the corner, he can't hold it low. So if the 15 had not wisely backed out, we would have had incident points, and since it was the 15 that took it 3-wide, right, if we back up, okay, here's 2-wide, and the 19 is ahead of the 15. And now they're 3-wide. So it was the 15 that took this 3-wide. So if the 3-wide rule was enabled, since the 15 took all cars, he's the one that made it 3-wide. Any incident points would have been assigned to him, and if he hadn't backed out, all 3 cars would have ended up in a wreck. So even though he had good position, he chooses to back out. Looks like he was drifting up towards the 17, but in any event, they never would have made it through that exit. So good job by the 15. Very, very good heads-up driving there. This is lap 49, and we're going to follow the 19 and the 17 for a few laps. And this is a very interesting situation here. I think it demonstrates several things. First, the effectiveness of using the preferred line as the arbiter of contact. So in this case, there will be no contact. These cars are going to turn a few laps here with some side-by-side racing. And, as the car numbers indicate, these guys, their iRating is not real high. And you can sort of tell as the cars go around the track. I mean, they're not holding a solid line. But because the cars are respecting the preferred line, so the high line car is above the preferred line, and the low line car stays, as close as you can to the low side of the preferred line at Bristol. The left side's below the preferred line through the corner. Because they are respecting that, these two cars at Bristol are able to go side by side, and so I think it's just a testament to the good racing that can be had here, even with drivers who do not have high I rating. It's just a matter of respecting the other driver and understanding where you need to be running on the track at Bristol when you're going side by side. So here I'm just going to let this play through at full speed, and you can just see how the drivers are all over the track, but as they go through the corner, the low side car keeps his left sides below the preferred line most of the time, or he's very close. He's doing a good diligent job. And the driver on the high side just wears out his right side, but he stays on the high side.
Thanks, Seven Man. Appreciate you.
This is a lap 50 incident between a couple cars running near the back of the pack, the 10 and the 13, with the leaders quickly approaching from behind. So here the 13 takes the high line and the 10 takes the low line. So if I just back this up a little bit, as we get to corner entry, the 13 has all the position here, and the 10 has none. 13 chooses to go high. 10 goes low and gets right up side by side and holds his line pretty well, and on corner slides up a little bit, but gets it back down. Those exiting the corner left sides down below the preferred line and back down. So slid up a little higher than ideal, but held the low line, and that probably cost him some momentum getting off the corner. So going into the next turn, similar. The 13 takes the high line, 10 takes the low line. Now that low line is a preferred line only if you're able to wash out to the outside track down the straightaway and arc it in. But the 10 is holding those left sides down below the preferred line. 13 trying to hold him off at the top, washes up into the outside wall, bounces off it several times, finally coming down and making contact with the 10. So responsibility points here go to the 13 because the 10 was holding the low line. And as you can see, the 13 was and the 16 got by. Both cars got past the 10, so it cost them some positions there. Okay, now we're getting late in the race. This is lap 50, and we're going to follow the 6, 9, and 3 around the track. And these drivers are fighting for some important positions. The number 3 is running third right now, and the 9 is fourth, the 6 is fifth. And we're going to follow them around for a few laps. And just this is some excellent driving. It looks like some real fun racing, but the key point here in this video is to appreciate how the drivers are respecting the preferred line as they're going through the corners and trying to make their passes and on corner entry, the whole thing. And this is because they're respecting that preferred line. That's why they're able to jostle back and forth through the corners and just have a real good time out here on the track.
Sorry.
So far it's been a very even battle. No one's really gotten any position on the other, but it's about to change. And you can see here the 3 is definitely holding the high line. All 3 cars on the high line. Now the 9 checks up there. So he doesn't run into the 3, and he doesn't try to cut low and pass the 3, because there's no way that he could be below the preferred line. So again, same thing here. All 3 cars enter. They're all on the high line. No one's attempting to pass here, but the 6 is thinking of setting something up. So he tries the low line, exiting the corner. But they're all just being patient, hoping someone will make a mistake here. No one's being too aggressive. And the race is winding down. Started on lap 50. There's only 66 laps to go here. So now the 6 makes his move to the inside, and notice he's got his left sides down below that preferred line. And that's why this is working. But because he went low, he loses his momentum. He can't complete the pass. So he's going to try it again. This is the preferred line. You should have a lot of good speed through here if you were able to arc that corner. And he holds his line low, exiting that corner very well. Now, he's got some position on the 9 as they go into the corner here. He chooses the low line. The 9 stays high. 6 is textbook. Left sides are down below the line, and now the 3 washes down the track because he feels the 9 on his bumper. But all is good here, right? The 6 never had position on the 3. So now the 3 goes to the low side and keeps his left sides down below that preferred line. So it's just perfect textbook. That allows enough room for the 6 to get a run on the outside. 6, they were side by side going into the corner. The 6 takes the high, 3 takes the low. 3 keeps his left sides down below that preferred line. Side by side racing through the corners at Bristol. This is going to be a lap 52 pass. The 8 is lining up the 7 here. And let's just see how this develops. Now you can see here going down the front stretch, the 7 has chosen, he's the lead car, he's chosen the inside line, and the 8, respecting that, is on the preferred line, but the right sides are on the outside of that preferred line. So the 8 on the outside, 7 looks like he's going to take the inside, but they're still just down the straightaway. Let's see as they approach the turn in. So the 7 is continuing to stay low, and the 8's on the high side. So as they go through the corner, the 7 is hugging the apron. He's got those left sides down. This is textbook low line here at Bristol. He's hugging the apron and is able to hold his position through the corner course, that's the fast line, so he's doing an excellent job. But the 8 is able to carry some momentum. So down this back stretch, they're even. The 8 nudges ahead a little bit as they enter the corner, and the 8 chooses the high line. The 7 still holding that bottom line. So keeping those left sides down below the preferred line. Lots of space between these two cars. Some good fast running right now. So I'm just going to back this up. Actually, I'm just going to play it now full speed. Listen to the reaction of the 8 after the pass is completed.
Thanks, 7, man. Appreciate you.
So some good hard racing there, and the 8 really appreciates the 7, holding his line. Here's a lap 53 pass. Some good close racing at Bristol. So here you can see the 11 taking the inside line. The 5, the lead car, had chosen the outside line, and the 11 is able to make it stick. He keeps those left sides down below the preferred line most of the way through. Now he's in the process of clearing the 5, but really hasn't cleared him yet. Maybe trying to do a slide job here, but he's definitely pushing up the track. So if there were any contact and the 11 had the left sides up above that preferred line, it would have been responsibility points on the 11. But in this case, it's just some good, close, hard racing here at Bristol. The 11 took a chance late in the race to gain the position. And now a lap 55 pass for the lead. Leaders are coming up on the tail end of the field. Let's look at that again. These are the leaders, the top 2 I-rated drivers in the race. And they're both taking the high line because the tires are worn, and the 2 bounces off the wall and gets a run. I don't understand how that can happen, but the 1 goes high, the 2 can't hold the low line, so he bangs into the 1, forcing the 1 into the wall. They're both into the wall. But responsibility award goes to the 2 for getting into the 1 when both drivers were on the high side of the preferred line. Okay, we're going to follow the 13 around here on lap 58. He's the last car. He will be the last car on the lead lap. And the leaders are approaching, and they are about to pass. Late in the race, and the tires are wearing. 13 stays high. Now he may be thinking, I'll give up the preferred line, but the leader, number 2, runs into the back of the 13. So if any responsibility points are warranted, they would go to the 2 for running into the back of the 13. And the 13 was yielding the preferred line to the leader. Now here's the 2nd position car, does a very similar thing, comes up, hits the 13 in the rear to get him loose, then cuts to the inside. So, and the 13 struggles to hold on to it there. So if any responsibility points are to be issued to the leaders, it should go to the first position and the second position cars. The 13 shouldn't end up with any responsibility points there. And now we'll follow the 10 and the 13. This is lap 58 and 59, and these cars are both a lap down, but they're having a good battle for position, and let's follow them around. So here, heading down the front stretch, the 10 has no position on the 13, so 13 holding the high line and chooses to continue to take the high line through the corner. Of course, this is later in the race, so the tires are somewhat worn, and maintains the gap, but the 10 gets a run off the corner, still can't get to his back bumper. So same thing, the 13 takes the high line around the corner, and the 10 now is getting up to his back bumper, but he's holding his low line nicely through the corner and pulls up beside the 13 down the front stretch and actually starts to make the pass here on the inside and continues to hold that line, but he's clear of the 13, so the pass is complete and the 10 is free to wash up the track, but he continues to hold his low line now on the preferred line and takes a little bit higher line this time. Again, the tires are worn, and stretches his lead out over the 13.